Extra Time TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Extra Time TV. I'm joined today by James Baird. James, how are you today?
I am very good, thank you, Andre.
All right, so we're going to get straight into it. There's been a lot of uncertainty surrounding Trinidad Tobago football. With the recent announcement that Terry has been dismissed by the TTFA, and now it's official. I just got the confirmation from official correspondence. By the way, not WhatsApp and all those other things, because we like to deal with official documents here at EXTV. Not hearsay, unless it's factually confirmed from the actual source. We're never going to reproduce that. So James, before we get started, I'm going to read it out again. So it's a very lengthy thing, so I'll try to skim through it really quickly. So this is the correspondence. The Normalization Committee has appointed Angus Eve as the interim head coach of the senior men's national team. The FIFA-appointed Normalization Committee of Trinidad Tobago Football Association has appointed Angus Eve as the interim head coach ahead of the Gold Cup preliminary round, which takes place in early July 2021. On accepting the position, which runs until 31st August 2021, Eve told TTFA Media, "I'm really honored and privileged to have this opportunity to continue to represent my country. I'm committed to provide a lift to Trinidad Tobago, especially in this time where we are battling with so many different adversities at the same time." With the Gold Cup around the corner, the appointment of an interim head coach had to be made in very short order. As such, a selection panel of the Normalization Committee member Nicholas Gomez, Anton Cornel, Anthony Shode, and Richard Chinapu met on the 12th of June to finalize the selection of the interim head coach, and Eve was recommended to the Normalization Committee as the preferred candidate. Normalization Committee Chairman Robert Haddad stated, "We thank the previous coaching staff for their commitment and efforts. We now look forward to the Gold Cup competition and wish Angus all the best. We will do our best to support him and the team. The Normalization Committee will be consulting with Eve to finalize his coaching staff. After the Gold Cup, a process overseen by an independent selection panel, which we'll talk about, will invite and review applications in anticipation of appointing the new senior men's national team head coach in September 2021. Kind regards, Amy Al-Mohammed, the acting general secretary of the Trinidad Tobago Football Association." So James, there's so much to talk about in just that little thing there. There's so much. So, we'll give our reaction. So the first thing, Angus Eve, it has been rumored, it's like the worst kept secret. I mean, I think on everybody's WhatsApp, it was going around that it was like almost like everybody knew already. So, it's official now. Angus Eve is now the coach for that particular game. What are your thoughts? Initial thoughts?
Well, it didn't take Sherlock Holmes to realise that even before Terry was fired, this was the move we're going to make. Sorry. And I don't make any apologies for saying that. Obviously, I wish Angus all the best. I have a lot of questions, with regards to the letter and things, but this is what the Normalization Committee and their new panel, let's say, have decided. The fact it was decided yesterday raises a few eyebrows because, that's only a day after or 2 days after Terry was fired, one. And who is the other candidates, two? And even the fact is that, they're going to appoint a new coach in September, it looks like. So, some of it seems a little bit farcical, but we've come to know this with the TTFA, sorry to say. There's no plan, it doesn't seem to be. I hope Angus Eve gets the time to, he doesn't have the time really to put together the squad that he wants, because obviously they're still in quarantine, I think, the players. Will he make changes or will he not? I think it's said that he's going to sit down to make his own staff. I've already heard tonight the staff, so that's not necessarily true, because I know for a fact that they've appointed, a staff. So, and it brings to the question too, when Terry was appointed, he was not allowed to bring his own staff. So, there's a whole bunch of a quagmire of questions there, but all the best to Angus. I hope he gets the result he hopes for against a very good Montserrat team, as we know. And will he, even in the future, will he be considered for the head coaching job come September? So lots of questions.
Yep, like I said, you're correct. This raises a lot more questions and answers because, okay, yes, Angus takes over. Both of us are familiar with him, with his work with, obviously at high school level. And then, Northeast Stars. I almost said Glasgow Rangers, but it's the Rangers from Trinidad Tobago, folks.
Not a chance.
Yeah, not even the same, folks. I said that just to harass James a little bit. So I know James is not going to let that slip. But, James... what really gets me is that you brought this up and we were going to do our initial reaction, but then we got this news. James raised a valid point, folks. So, for example, the players are in quarantine right now. They're going to spend about 7 days in there. And then before they head off to this crucial game, they're going to have to quarantine again. So, I don't know the logistics on how they're doing this. If the players are just going to stay within the bubble, which I would think is a smarter thing to do. But then here's the problem with that. When does Angus Eve actually get to see these players? And, how much of a say will he have in such a short period of time when pulling together players? Does he just use the same team? Are the players okay with this? I mean, I'd be interested to hear the players because I think Angus is being put in a situation I think is, to be honest, a bit unfair. I think it's, I'm not making excuses for him now. I think it's, and I said it with Terry as well in the beginning. It's quite a ridiculous situation, to be honest. I think the way he's going to go in, he's a guy who is very much passionate about his job. I know this guy, and I know have spoken to him as well. I think Angus is being put in quite an interesting position. And also, this entire thing, from what I've read, and I know you agree with me, James, is supposedly based on a financial decision that they can't afford Terry and Kelvin Jack and Derek King and these guys. And that was the reason, which I think should have been publicized a little bit better if that was the reason. And then, it raises questions, as James said. It seems like everybody knew that Angus was going to take over. So, whether this is nothing to do with us, this is not my personal opinion. It was just flying around. There were people publishing this news as fact and boasting and confident about their sources, which goes back to a point that James and I have been making throughout our conversations about Trinidad Tobago football, which is almost like I'm going to use an old reference for you kids if you even know what a record is. A spinning record. That's a circular thing that used to play music. James, because, some people don't know James. They don't know. So, but this is something that I'm worried about because the problems that were present when Terry was there, are they just going to miraculously go away now? Because I think they're not. Information, once again, before he's even appointed, everybody knows. Why is that happening? If Angus has a discussion, is Angus information going to leak out just like it did with Terry, just like it did with Dennis, just like it did with Tom, just like it did with Stephen? And, he's a coach that I like. I met him, along with Anthony Rozier and other guys. And I think in terms of the long term, I think he's a coach that I would hate to see because you see how cruel our media is, James. He goes in a situation that's unfavorable. He doesn't perform. He gets thrown under the bus. That's what's going to happen. And I don't think that's fair. And, also in terms of the selection committee, James, which I have some questions about that. Obviously they told us about the, Anton Cornel, Anthony Sherwood, Nicholas Gomez and Richard and so on. And then they also said later on in the letter here, I think after the process, an independent selection panel will be invited to review applications, which I would love to see. I think, they definitely need to be transparent in how they choose these coaches because I'll be honest, and James understands, James comes from Scotland. Coaches at international level require, I think, minimum qualifications, which involves some sort of international experience working at professional level, because you can't cut it anymore with a grassroots coach anymore. You can't cut it. It's taking a risk. And I know we have financial limitations, but I would love to see the criteria and so on for choosing these coaches because, Terry is an ex-England international, so, a lot of people questioning him, but, a lot of the alternatives I was hearing about simply, I don't think are good enough. I think it's more fan responses and people saying, we should pick the popular choices. But, I think that is something I'm very interested in, James. And, this was supposed to be a short video, but I think this has more answers and questions. I More questions than answers. And I think that Angus has quite a challenge, James. I think he really has a big challenge. And, this letter, I'm reading it more. I have a lot of vested interest in this panel. I'm very curious about the selection process because there's a lot of things wrong with Trinidad and Tobago football. We put these coaches in there. I think even if we got a Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho in Trinidad and Tobago football, it's not going to fix our problems. We'll probably have somebody writing about, he's probably not good enough and doesn't understand the players or whatever. So James, I went off on a small rant there, but let me know your thoughts as well. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I agree with most of your sentiments there. They say it's going to be an independent panel which will choose the next coach in September. There's no such thing as an independent panel, in my opinion, in Trinidad and Tobago, but we'll see about that one. But, as I say, the other thing I would love to know is who was the other candidates. Because, even from, if you want to be, from a personal point of view, would I have thrown my hat in the ring? People might, say, well, nah, not that Scotsman. Fine, everybody has their own opinion. But I would love to know, for example, was Keith Jeffrey in for it? Was, the Rangers coach? I'm trying to think local coaches because at the end of the day, it had to be somebody local. Or was it just one name that they decided on? At the end of the day, Angus has got the job. So there's no point necessarily of crying over spilt milk. We hope he does well. It will be difficult, as you say, because even makes me think of the question, can he add players he wants to the list for the Gold Cup? I don't know if the list has been submitted already. So basically, he may have to just go with Terry's players, which he may or may not have picked himself. So it is a difficult situation. We all want Trinidad to be able to win. People may say, why is the Scotsman talking about it? At the end of the day, I have a lot of passion for Trinidad and Tobago. I live here, my family's here. My son is Trinidadian, at the end of the day, I may be Scottish, but Trinity to the bone, as they say as well, So I want Trinidad and Tobago to go to the Gold Cup. I want Trinidad and Tobago to make it to the competitions. It's the same reason why when people ask me, would you like the job or the other job, the women's job in the past? Of course I want the job because I want Trinidad and Tobago to do the best he can do. So, I hope everybody gives Angus that support. And it seems to be a popular choice generally with the public. And but at the end of the day, it is a very short tenure, because it's one game. I think there's the game against, it could be Cuba or French Guiana, depending if he gets through the Montserrat game. So it could be a few games, but I hope he gets the support. I hope the players, give him the chance to, do what he can with the team, and I hope we can get through.
Yep. And, this was originally supposed to be a reaction to Terry's dismissal, but, the news came in really quickly. So we'll condense it because people were asking, I saw in the YouTube comment section, a couple of people were asking, opinion, who the upcoming coaches could be. And bam, we already had our choice made for us. So, that video went straight out the window. So, just to summarize my thoughts, James, Terry was also, dismissed. A lot of, I saw people, and, this is to put things in perspective then. Terry has played 5 games. The one against the US, which we know about, which is a friendly under ridiculous conditions. No professional football being played. The COVID-19 pandemic was in full swing. It still is. And, we don't have any active football going on except for maybe the international players. So a lot of our core local players had to train without football. And any coach who understands anything about football or any sport is, you can't beat playing time. You can train how much you want. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. You still need to play games. And, he tried to play with what he had. And I heard people keep saying, they were making fun. They were like, oh, he's playing this team and that team. And Angus is going to have to face that same situation if he stays on. Because after this game, but let me go back. So Terry has been sacked because if you're looking at the results, he lost that game against USA, but he drew 2, won 2. Yes, I know we got a horrible result against the Bahamas. Nobody disagrees with that, and I'm pretty sure nobody knows this better than Terry and the players themselves. They are going to have to live with that. So even if people blame the coach or whatever, the players who I know really well, no matter what, when you have you have a team that you should have beaten and you didn't, you're going to have to live with that. You're going to have to, when you go to sleep at night and look at the ceiling, you'll know. You'll know. So, James, to me, Angus Eve coming in now, I'm good. It's going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but Angus Eve is going to have to work with the same team. And I think that in terms of what he can do, it's almost non-existent. I mean, he can't even... I know Angus Eve. Angus Eve is the kind of coach. He's very meticulous. He has a certain way he likes to play. He prioritizes defense first. He strengthens the defense first. I've seen it with all his teams. He wants to make sure that, at least they don't concede goals. He loves the 4-2-3-1 formation. I know that's his favorite. But he's going to have to come into a team with players that he hasn't got the luxury of really choosing. So he's going to have to sit down now and go in with this team and get a victory. And in this letter, he had already talking about looking forward to the Gold Cup like it's already happening. Montserrat is a very difficult team, as James pointed out. Even their coach boasted recently they're just a few players away from being, I think, the top 4 team. Is that what they said? I know Edwin Hosino from Football Boricua, added me on that tweet. So they are very confident.
Ironically, Andre, the coach is Scottish. So I think it's Willie Donoghue, if I'm not mistaken. And he's assisted by one of my old teammates, George Dublin. A lot of people know him here. He played for Joe Public and he played for Tobago. Very competent guy as well. They have them really buzzing. They brought in some English players. They look like a complete different team. They're also not sponsored, but their kit is also Ball. So obviously we should know them from that. But this will be no walkover game. I think it will take us firing on all cylinders to beat them. And do we have time to do that? Because you said obviously Angus likes to play a certain way. There's no way he's going to have the time to put his blueprint on the team. Let's be honest. I mean, you may have 2 weeks max. You may not have all the players. And remember, the other thing you have to consider is, Nicholas Frederick was not there for these games. Will he come in to join for these games? And then you also have to think about too, certain players would have wanted to play for Terry. Sorry to say, whether it's me, whether it's Angus, whether it's whoever else, they may not want to play for the next coach. There's lots of things you have to consider too. So, and it may even mean that Angus, obviously he's been very successful in secondary school football. Will he use some of his former pupil players or, former players from Naparima College? You don't know. So there's so many things that we have to consider, but it is a very, very hard task.
Yep. And, unlike other places, James and I, we at EXTV try to look at this from a sporting perspective, whereas it's opinion and it's very easy for people to give their opinions. We're trying to look at this from a highly analytical standpoint where Angus Eve is a coach who has had, decent success at club level and at high school football. And I already know some of the questions some people will be asking, but okay, high school football and international football are 2 totally different things. And yes, not just in terms of the actual game, but just the environment. The preparation is different at high school level. For those of you who are in Trinidad Tobago, Trinidad Tobago high school football, you see the players. It's kind of like club level, but still it's different. It's for a shorter period of time. The technical aspects. There's more an emphasis on the teams that are better prepared physically rather than tactically in the end that really win those games. And it's totally different. Sort of at international level, you have professional players who have a different fitness level. They're tactically more astute. And then also certain dimensions are very different. For example, from the media preparation, the actual logistical preparation for a national team is very different from high school. You don't have a principal or a guy, to help you out to get things done. And the point I'm going to get to, James, is that Angus Eve works at NAPS, which is a very prestigious school in Trinidad and Tobago, both academically, and they've been doing very well in recent years in football. He has a very supportive network there. He has pretty much everything he needs. And we all know, this is no big secret, that the national team is in total chaos. Gary Griffith basically had to help provide meals for these guys. Some of these guys had to drive from all over the island. And, even finances to get these guys to where they are. We don't have that money right now. So, this is another thing that's baffling me right now because Angus Eve is going to go into that and have to face that. And I'm not making excuses for him, but I said the same thing when Terry came in, that there are problems there that are underlying that needs to be fixed. Or else we're going to keep changing coaches. And then at the end of the game, hopefully we win. But we have to look at all scenarios, James. We come in, let's say, knock on this aluminum I have here because it's not wood. We lose. And I can see the comments coming out. Angus should have used this formation and Angus should have used those players. And the same stories over and over. And I think it's our duty as well, because we have other people as well, to really get the viewers to understand the wider problems that Trinidad Tobago football has, rather than just looking at it as, oh, who's that guy? He's terrible. Sack him. Because they are, James, as you know, and you've said with no apologies, that there are a lot of problems going on. The process was strange. I think in terms of the financial perspective, I'm guessing, if they can't afford to pay Terry, that Angus must have taken a significant drop in pay. Now, I'm going to say something a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I think international coaches undersell themselves in Trinidad Tobago. Maybe they don't understand the kind of salary international coaches should get. Now, I don't expect them to get, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, I think, the coaches, I think another factor that may come into this, that we'll probably eventually have to get some answers from the normalization committee if they ever, we arrange a meeting, is that this clearly, I think, was based on a financial thing, James. I think that's what it is. And, they decided, we can't afford these guys, because as we're seeing, if Terry stayed on, and he won that game because they looked like they had a nice momentum in the St. Kitts game. He comes in, he wins that game. According to his contract, which is rock solid, he would have gotten a pay rise, I think. So I think, which I'm hoping that's not the case. That was kind of like, to dodge that bullet. But
so basically what you're saying there is it was more important to pay off Terry Fenwick than it was to qualify for the Gold Cup, in theory. That's what you're saying then.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
I mean, that's it, because at the end of the day, taking nothing away from Angus, Terry had the team winning or 2 wins and 2 draws. They won the last game. Going into this game, they would have had the momentum. Obviously, things change now. The team will have to change, all that. So they had more chance, let's be honest, under Terry going into this Montserrat game, preparation-wise, let's say, than obviously switching, which should have done. So really, they've picked, the normalisation committee, it looks like have picked, paying off, a debt rather than, and they will say that's their job, because remember, the FIFA mandate they got was to fix finances in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yep.
And they will also say they never hired Terry, because obviously it was the Wallace regime that hired Terry. So there's lots of ways you could swing it, but it's not ideal either way.
Yeah, and from a sporting perspective, James, you are a former professional player. We're just using this strictly from a sporting perspective. You are a couple weeks away from a crucial game. Your coach has had, yes, we got eliminated. I know people are going to say this. That's why I keep bringing it up. Yes, okay, we had a horrible result against Bermuda, but as somebody who works in sport, you see, okay,
Andre.
Yeah, what's that?
Bahamas.
Yeah, sorry, Bahamas. We got that result against Bahamas, and everybody's mad about it and things like that. And then we go into the St. Kitts game, we get a good result. Now, this is why you need qualified people who also, I don't necessarily believe you have to be a former player, but you have to understand sports. And, it's a couple of weeks away from the Gold Cup qualifier. It destabilizes the team, I think, in terms of, okay, you get rid of the senior coach right now, you replace him with somebody else. Does it really... didn't seem like a smart move to me. And, it goes back to what I'm saying. It seemed like it was based on, apparently, financial reasons, like they just couldn't afford him anymore and to bring in somebody else. And I just think that, from a sporting perspective, that I think it just wasn't smart. It's kind of like firing, Pep Guardiola because he lost. That's a terrible comparison. I'm not going to even bring in the EPL, but, it's just like I'm getting annoyed just thinking about it, as you can tell. But, we'll probably end things off with that, where I think Angus has a challenge to face. And James, unless I'm going to let, if you have anything else to add, I think we'll probably end it off there, because folks, you can let us know what you think about Angus Eve's appointment. It's going to be an interim thing. He's going to be coaching the team for 1 game, according to this thing here. Will he have enough time? Do you think it will be fair to judge Angus Eve on that game? And, what are your thoughts? So, James, before we go, do you have anything else to add?
I think the only thing I would say is, as I say, it's no slight on Angus. We're not saying anything necessarily about him personally. It could have been me in that situation. It could have been a whole bunch of coaches. So they could have been reversed. But at the end of the day, I hope he's given the chance from the players as well, because as you say, the psychological thing, players would have been preparing to play for Terry. So there's a whole bunch of things that come into it. I just hope he's given the chance from everybody to get this result. And as I say, I wish him all the best. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and it seems as if there's a lot of people that just don't like him, meaning Terry. And no matter what he did, he was going to be out. So there's also that aspect as well. And listen, you're entitled to your opinion, folks. Yeah, you can like, everybody has their preferences. We know this about football. You could like this coach. Some people like Pep Guardiola. Some people like Jose. A lot of people, don't like Terry Fenwick. From the very beginning, they said that they didn't like him. I think the ability to look past, personal prejudice and make a decision that benefits an organization is something that we lack in sport right now. And I think, that's where we are. So, I hope we get through. As James said, I want us to win. I always want Trinidad and Tobago to win. But I just think this thing is a whole mess. And, I want Trinidad and Tobago to do well. I know Angus, and I hope he does well. But I'm also, letting people know that there is a possibility that with all these things in place, it's quite a challenge for Angus. And, time will tell, how it reveals itself, because we know how harsh the media is, James. They will turn around if we lose the game and throw him under the bus, which I think is not fair, to be honest. I mean, he is a patriot and he's going to take the job. Like you said, it could have been anybody. It could have been even you, James. For those of you who don't know, James is highly qualified, folks. But, and I'm not just saying that. So, we'll end things off. Let us know what you think in the comment section. This has been a lengthy video. It's basically 3 videos shoved into one, because it was supposed to be a reaction video to his sacking. It was supposed to be the Terry Fenwick. It was supposed to be possible coaches. And then we found out Angus Eve is taking over. So all of that now has been shoved into one. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and also check out our Euro and Copa America videos. I'll put links in the description below. So, folks, thank you for joining us. Just a reminder, everyone, for more episodes with Shaka Hislop, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, interviews, and content.